Well, we've got some breaking news. The Yankees have a new member to their starting rotation. It is Marcus Stroman, former Met, former Blue Jay, former Cub, feisty little guy, and they've made a offer to Blake Snell. Reports are that the offer is for 5 years, $150 million. We'll talk about all of it and get your reactions. Impromptu episode of NYY Recaps.
Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
New York City.
Just when they thought I was out, they pull me back in.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Getting all the graphics ready here on the screen so we can take a look at Marcus Stroman's analytics and all that good stuff. After weeks with pretty much no Yankees news or very limited Yankees news, the floodgates have opened. Today was arbitration deadline agreement today. So the Yankees signed a bunch of players to one-year contracts. Clay Holmes, Trent Grisham got $5.5 million. Jonathan Loaizaga got re-signed. Clark Schmidt got a new contract. Juan Soto broke the record, though. 1 year, $31.5 million. That broke Shohei's record. And a couple hours ago, we got a report that the Yankees had made an offer to Blake Snell. I'm sure we'll talk all about that as we move along. But the rumor is, the word around the campfire, as they say, is that it's for 5 years, $150 million. And I would not have a huge issue with that. You hope you get 3 or 4 good years out of that. But, 5 years, you'll take it. When the Juan Soto trade happened, a few things became self-evident. The Yankees were all in because you don't go out and trade for Juan Soto unless you want to win this year. You got him for 1 season, then he's a free agent, no guarantee you're going to bring him back. And number 2, it meant that the Yankees had to turn their attention to pitching because the arms they had to deal to get Juan Soto pretty much eliminated their depth. Guys like Randy Vasquez, Johnny Brito, obviously Michael King. But I saw an interesting stat that Marcus Stroman had more quality starts last year in the major leagues than all of those guys combined. So they made the $300 million offer to Yamamoto. Obviously, that didn't work out. So the question we've been asking for the last couple of weeks is, how would the Yankees pivot, right? How would they address the rotation? And it looks like they've settled on Marcus Stroman as the number 5. I think he's going to be the number 5 guy. He's going to replace Clark Schmidt, who's going to slide probably back into the bullpen or be used in a trade. But my guess is slide back into the bullpen and then be available as that depth piece because you always need more than 5 starters, right? So my guess is Stroman goes into the number 5 spot, and then they go out and sign Blake Snell to fill out the number 2 or number 3 spot. Number 2, for sure. But it's good to see that the Yankees are being active again.
More of that, please.
Tommy Higgs with the numbers. I hadn't seen the numbers yet. All I saw was that it was a 2-year deal. Marcus Stroman gets a 2-year, $37 million contract, so just less than $20 million per year. Now, I want to share a couple of things. This is an interesting split that we saw last year. Now, he got hurt in the second half, but my buddy Aiden posted this. First 13 starts for Marcus Stroman, 2.39 ERA and a 3.46 FIP, or fielding independent pitching. Last 12 starts, 6.09 ERA. So obviously a tough second half. Jameson Taillon was on Foul Territory today, and he was talking a lot about Marcus Stroman and the type of athlete that he is and his workout routine. And he basically said this guy's an animal in the weight room and, in the side sessions. He knows what he's doing as a pitcher. So Touch One says 2 years and $37 million is a flyer. I agree. That seems like a very reasonable contract for a guy like Marcus Stroman.
I wholeheartedly agree.
And apparently his FIP much lower than his actual ERA in the second half, 3.74 fielding and independent pitching. So, you know, and he also had some injury issues. Now he's 32 years old, and you know, this is a guy who he has a chip on his shoulder for sure. I don't know that he's a bad clubhouse guy. Apparently he bought the entire Cubs team Nintendo Switches and got everybody hooked on Mario Kart this year. That doesn't sound like something a shitty teammate would do. Now, has he fired back at teams that have let him go? Sure. So is Alex Verdugo. I think it's interesting that the Yankees have added a couple of guys this year who have been, you know, somewhat of, on offense after they get moved from a team. Richard K says, I thought we moved on from Donaldson. So he's comparing him to Josh Donaldson. I get it. Parks and Young says, why take on a problem guy in the clubhouse? We don't know for sure that he's a problem guy in the clubhouse. Look, he's a veteran who's, you know, been in the league a long time. You have to figure out that he understands what you have to do to be a big leaguer, right? You have to understand your preparation, a certain degree of professionalism, and you don't get this far without at least having that. So, you know, maybe he's a little cantankerous. So what? So was Gary Sheffield. So was, Randy Johnson. The Yankees have had these guys before. Lori C says he sounds like a punk sometimes.
Oh!
One Piece fan says, since we got Stroman, let's land Snell, and then we'll have a solid starting rotation. I do think that the addition of Snell and Stroman would give the Yankees a pretty solid starting five. You'd have to run it out there like this. Garrett Cole, number 1. Blake Snell, number 2. Dominant 1-2 punch if Snell is anything close to what he was in the second half last year. Over the last, I think, 15 or 16 starts, I don't have the numbers in front of me, he posted an ERA of about 1.25, which is ridiculous. Now, he does walk a lot of guys, but he still misses a lot of bats. He had 234 strikeouts. So, 2 Cy Youngs. I mean, that doesn't happen by accident. You got to have talent. Hopefully, working with Matt Blake, both of these guys can make improvements and have good years. But you got to sign Snell first. Let's not put the cart ahead of the horse. Reggie 2K says, great contract. I think it's money-wise a good contract. I agree. And Ben Eats says, hopefully this gets the ball rolling on another starting arm. So let's go through. So you got Garrett Cole, number 1. Hopefully Blake Snell, number 2. And then I'm giving Carlos Rodon a shot at number 3 if he's healthy. And you're just praying that he's back to the same guy that he was before he got to the Yankees. Number 4, Nestor Cortez, who, let's not forget, had back-to-back years with a sub-3 ERA. Now, he didn't throw a ton of innings, but last year was kind of an outlier for his career. He's been really good over the last few years. And then, number 5 spot, Marcus Stroman. Knowing the Yankees, they'll probably go Garrett Cole, and then if they sign Blake Snell, number 2, Stroman, number 3 on, I guess, just, experience, having being a veteran, just show them that respect, and then take the pressure off of Rodon and Cortez by putting them at number 4 and 5. Yanni Molos says, not a huge fan of Stroman, talked a lot of crap about the Yankees. To be fair, he wanted to go to the Yankees badly. Instead, he got traded to the Mets. Brian Cashman was asked about it, and Cashman said that Stroman would not be an impact pitcher for the Yankees. To which Stroman was like,
Son of a bitch!
And so he came back and fired a few more shots at Brian Cashman and the Yankees, saying that they paid all this money and they don't win. And look, he wasn't wrong. It's not like he came out and said, I'll never play for the Yankees. I hate the Yankees. He didn't say anything like that. He never said the Yankees fans suck. He's He's been cantankerous. He's blocked a lot of Yankees universe on Twitter. He's probably gotten me blocked. I'll find out. I'll find out if Stroman's got me blocked. Marcus Stroman. No, he doesn't have me blocked, but he's got. I know he's got Pat Hennessy blocked. He's had his problems with Yankees social media. Mike Lino says, "Do the Yankees make pants tight enough for him?" Anyways, Snell next.
High five.
Michael Dialto says Luke Weaver gives us some depth too. That's something that I forgot to mention in my floodgate of news to start the show. Yes, Luke Weaver signed with the Yankees, 1 year, $2 million. Obviously a depth piece. Does not throw very hard, but has pretty good control. I liked him when he was with the Yankees. And the Yankees like to do that. They like to keep guys that they bounce back and forth, between AAA and the major leagues, or that, they'll sign him to a major league contract, DFA him halfway through the year, and then re-sign him to a minor league contract, and he still gets paid his major league contract. It's kind of a loophole around the luxury tax and all that good stuff. The Miguel Castro show says Cortez as a potential number 4 in the rotation would be great. RP says would rather have punks that win than teddy bears that only show up once a week. Interesting comment. It does seem like the Yankees have been somewhat soft in recent years. Luis Severino comes to mind, giving up that 3-run home run and then making up an excuse like, well, if the roof was closed, it would have been caught, or whatever. I do feel like the Yankees could use a little bit of this outsider, doesn't fit with the Yankee mold kind of guy. Nick Swisher was one of those guys. Now, Nick Swisher was a much more jovial presence than somebody like a Marcus Stroman or a Josh Donaldson or whatever, but he was, a drop of lemon in the drink. He was just the right piece at the right time to kind of bring in some energy to that clubhouse. AJ Burnett was the same way. He was seen as somebody who could be a little bit cantankerous, and he came in and he brought the pies for the walk-offs. These guys are human beings. They all have different kind of personality flares. Stroman bought the entire Cubs team Nintendo Switches. What's he going to do for the Yankees to build camaraderie? And apparently he's wanted to pitch for the Yankees for a while. Grew up a Yankee fan. He posted the picture of himself on Instagram. That's kind of how this news broke. In a Yankees jacket as a kid. So, Mr. Gamma says, what to do with Schmidt? I think Schmidt has reliever written all over him. And Boca Loca Baseball says, Swishalicious. Nicholas Termini says, are we still in on Snell? So, okay, I'll revisit some of the stuff we visited at the top of the show, just because we've got almost 1,000 people in the chat now, and when we began, we had 8 people in the chat, because this was an impromptu podcast. So, yes, we are in on Blake Snell. There's no official word on offers, ever, until it gets rejected. Like, you remember when Aaron Judge rejected that contract a couple of years ago, it leaked, right? And now we've got over 1,000 in the chat, by the way. So you remember a couple of years ago, Brian Cashman leaked Aaron Judge's offer to the press. And Aaron Judge didn't like that, by the way. I feel like that's been kind of something that's been building between them for the last couple of years since then. Anyway, but generally, an offer doesn't leak until it gets closer to the end, right? But we've heard 5 years, $150 million. So take it with a grain of salt. But that would be $30 million per year. So slightly more than they offered Yamamoto, but for far less years. 5 years. Blake Snell, 31 years old. This takes him to his mid-30s. I would much rather have him be done in his mid-30s with this contract than signing him to 37, 38, 39 years old. I've said this a lot of times, and I actually talked about it with Todd Frazier and Eric Kratz the other day in one of our meetings. I'm concerned about the walks, right? He throws 99 walks this year, right? Basically 100. But still had a really low ERA because he doesn't give up a lot of hits. He misses bats. So my contention is guys that throw a ton of pitches like that, right? And have a ton of high-stress pitches with guys on base because they've walked two guys or whatever. My contention is those guys break down early because they're throwing a lot of high-stress pitches. And David Price is the example that I often use. But Frazier and Kratz both disagreed with me. Kratz said, first of all, Blake Snell is an awesome guy, just a terrific human being, which I like the sound of. And let's get some Blake Snell highlights up now that we've talked a little bit about Marcus Stroman. But hang on just a second. Got to pull up my Player Diamond Vision over there. Boom. All right, some Blake Snell. So, and Frazier said, look, it really doesn't matter if, he's walking guys because he's not giving up hits. Like he's pitching carefully. He's not straying from his game plan, and it's working. And as long as he keeps doing that, he's going to have success. And it seemed like he got more comfortable down the stretch in that game plan. And that's why he has a second Cy Young Award. Chocolate C joining late says, Stroman signed for 2 years? ? Yes, 2 years, $37 million for Marcus Stroman. Joe Raiola says, why don't the Yankees develop their own starting pitchers? They have in the past. Look, Andy Pettitte, great starting pitcher they developed, but that was a long time ago. Obviously, Chen-Ming Wong had a lot of success when he first came up. He was a sinker baller who didn't throw a lot of pitches in the game and was able to go, 7, 8 innings a lot of times with about 100 pitches because he was getting nice, easy ground balls, not throwing deep counts. I loved him as a pitcher. Then there was an interleague game. It was in Houston, I believe, before Houston switched over to the American League. And he was running the bases. He hurt his foot, and he was never the same. There's a documentary about it on Netflix called Late Life. Phil Hughes was the number one pitching prospect at one point. He was a 2004 number one draft pick. He became a decent pitcher with the Yankees. I believe he won 18 games once. He took a couple of no-hitters into the seventh inning. Had a couple of big strikeout years. He was a crucial part of the 2009 World Series. They drafted Ian Kennedy, who won 20 games in the National League after they traded him. So they have developed some pitchers. Mike King is a guy they just developed that, they turned him from an okay middle reliever to a dominant starter in just a few years. And they just used him to get Juan Soto. Jordan Montgomery came up through the Yankees system, as Miguel Castro show points out. The one caveat, though, is that he became a better pitcher when he left the Yankees. Pamela Davis says the Snell deal is either going to be really good or really bad. I agree. If you get this guy for, I'd say 5 years, 150 to 180 million. You take it because he's going to give you at least 3 more good years. I think he's going to give you at least 3 more good years. If you have to go 6 or 7 years, those last couple are going to be tough. Ginger Flips with the Super Dono. 2 years, $37 million is great. Now Snell plus Hicks for number 28. I love it. Stone Cold pessimistic about our chances to get Snell. Look, there's not a lot of teams banging down Snell's door. It sounds like the San Francisco Giants are very interested. Doesn't sound like the Padres are going to be able to bring him back because of their financial concerns. There's about a third of the league that's going through the financial concerns because of this Bally's, I believe it's called Pro Diamond Vision Sports or whatever, the TV deal. A lot of teams lost regional network money recently, and it's uncertain what's going to happen. Amazon today was rejected. They tried to buy out this company so that they could get access to all of the streaming baseball rights, and MLB nixed the deal. So MLB consistently shoots itself in the foot in terms of bringing the game to fans. You know, how many times have you tried to tune into a game if you're in different parts of the country than New York, and it's been blacked out? I've mentioned this a number of times on here. I grew up in New York. I lived in New York for a long time, but I live in North Carolina now. And when the Yankees play either the Orioles or the Washington Nationals, the game is blacked out. I got to watch it on like a different regional sports network that I don't have, or I've got to use a VPN to get around it. And it sucks because I cover pretty much every single Yankees game. And so to do that, it's a real pain in the ass. Anyway, Albert Jr. says, 1.2 thousand watching. I didn't even notice. I love how we all flock to the best channel on YouTube for Yankees news. I appreciate that, Albert. You the man. Firewatch says, Rodon has bounced back to being Rodon, generally a bad pitcher. I'm going to go ahead and disagree there. Let's pull up his numbers
Just a bit outside.
over his career because, you know, he does have a pretty good track record. Now, last year, obviously tough. He had a 3-8 record with a 6.85 ERA, but the 2 years before that, sub-3 ERA, 2.88 in 22, 2.37 the year before that. Now, he did have a couple of rough years. 2020 COVID year, he only pitched 7 2/3 innings. We're not even going to count that. That's bullshit. 2019 was the home run, juice ball year. That was tough too. But he was mediocre up to that point. You know, he broke into the league with the White Sox, had a decent first year, 3.75 ERA. I mean, if we had a 22-year-old rookie that went 9-6 in 26 games with 139 strikeouts and 139 in the third innings and a 3.75 ERA, we'd be like, this guy's off to a great start. Struggled a little bit the next year, 4.04 ERA. The next year, more injuries. So he hit a spell there where he was just injured a lot, but he was on a decent trajectory. Like, he had some good stuff early on, more strikeouts than innings pitched. He tweaks his mechanics in 2021 after getting, I believe he was a non-roster invitee to spring training or non-tendered, something like that, and ended up busting out, having a huge year. You guys might remember he had a duel at Yankee Stadium against Jordan Montgomery in which they both pitched just tremendous baseball. And that night, he looked about as unhittable as any left-handed pitcher I've ever seen. I mean, I never saw Sandy Koufax pitch. I never saw Ron Guidry pitch a little bit before my time. Randy Johnson, maybe, during his heyday. But, I mean, that night, he was just consistently 100 miles an hour at the letters with a breakneck slider down and in to righties, down away to lefties. I think there was maybe one lefty in the lineup that night. Jordan Montgomery, I believe, outpitched him, though. So that was a hell of a game. Yankees signed him last year, and obviously the back injury slowed him up. But hopefully, whatever conditioning he's done this winter gets him going.
Farewell,
Take a few more comments here.
To you fair Spanish ladies.
I gotta get out of here.
Matt Begley says, Nightingale just tweeted that the Yankees pivoted to Stroman after the initial offer to Snell wasn't close.
You gotta go.
Interesting. You know, these things go back and forth. I still don't think the Yankees are out on Snell. We'll see what happens. And then more pessimism here already. Steve-O says, this means they aren't getting Snell or anyone else expensive. Hal is already well over last year. I don't know.
What the f*** is this piece of shit?
I disagree. XYZ Inc. Plays says, I live in Florida. Imagine being blacked out all the Yankees Rays games. That's tough. That's a tough situation. Appreciate the dono. All right, guys, we're going to call it a night, but thanks for tuning in to this impromptu podcast. Welcome to Marcus Stroman. I know that we have had our troubles in the past with you, but
You son of a bitch.
welcome to the New York Yankees. And I will see you on the flip side.